Okay, we got a lot of time to talk about this. Put your feet up. We got two quarterbacks to analyze because that's the story of last night. And Graziano, what was your first thought this morning?
I thought that even though he was hurt and didn't play last year, the year that J.J. McCarthy spent in Minnesota last year was more beneficial to his development than the year Caleb Williams spent in Chicago last year was to his. And just because, two different head coaches, multiple offensive coordinators, just kind of, didn't really get his feet under him in the league, even though he was playing. Whereas J.J. McCarthy, the coaching infrastructure there in Minnesota is so strong. The belief from the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, in him is so strong. And apparently, as Kevin mentioned, the team feels the same way. So this is a quarterback who had never played in the NFL before last night, but seemed like he was absolutely ready not only to play, but to continue Minnesota's success from last year. Remember, there's a lot of pressure on this young man. They won 14 games last year, so if he didn't look like he was up to it, it would have gone sour pretty quickly.
Troy Aikman started the night by saying he thinks there's more pressure on McCarthy this year than any other quarterback in the league. And so how do you think his teammates walked out of that stadium last night?
Oh, you walk in that locker room coming off that victory and you say to each other, hey, Nick, man, we got to do it.
We got our guy. We got our guy.
We're not worried about that. Yeah. When you go through that level of adversity that he went through in the first half of that ball game, when you throw a pick six in the third quarter and it's good night, turn the lights out, and you're able to respond. This throw in the fourth quarter to Justin Jefferson while he's getting hit in the mouth, I think they found out something about their quarterback, that he has the moxie to get us to where we want to go.
They're going to have a great week of practice. I remember getting traded down to Atlanta, and we had Matt Ryan, the quarterback. And that very first throw of the game, he throws a skinny post to Mike Jenkins. He takes it to the crib. The whole feeling of the organization changed on that moment. I feel like the same thing happened last night, that all those guys know. People are going to be practicing harder on Wednesday. Everybody's going to show up early on Wednesday. They're going to stay late.
Got a chance.
Everything changes when you find out you got a guy like this who can bounce back from a rough start in his first start. It's incredible.
And I think everybody, to your point, is fired up because they saw it before it happened. Yeah. Like they saw when he came out, they saw when he throws the interception, and then the kid just lets it rip. I mean, it's like, I ain't sweating this. We're going to keep this. And he talked about it in the huddle. You see like what the players said afterwards. They looked in his eyes. He said, I'm going to bring this team back. We're going to win this. Those moments solidify a team extremely quickly, and especially for a young guy who's got that air about him. The dude's been successful everywhere. Yeah. And now he's showing you the first time he gets a shot to go come back and make it happen. That's a special feeling.
You were telling us a story this morning about that you had heard over the summer about a joint practice that I think was interesting.
So I was covering the Patriots in the preseason. So the second week, they had a joint practice down in Minnesota. Patriots go out there day one. J.J. McCarthy doesn't perform well. They do some things that he wasn't ready for. There's no game planning at that point.
That's right.
So what the Vikings coaches did, they said, you know what? We're going to treat this like a game. We're going to come in after day one. We're going to make some corrections. We're going to game plan a little bit off of what we saw on day one. J.J. McCarthy goes out there on day two, 13 for 13 in practice, has his best one of training camp. And that showed the coaches this is the closest thing to what it's going to feel like game day.
Can I just say how important, like we talk about O'Connell, like how special he is, but McCown, his quarterback coach as well.
Right there.
That ability, right, to go, hey, you know what? We are going to actually game. We want to put this kid in a position to get him better and actually develop him as a player. Hey, JJ, this is what we're going to do. If we had this in a game, here's the adjustments we would make. Let's go see what you can do. And the kid comes out and responds. That's true development at that position. And it is the most important thing in football because at the end of the day, he's the only guy crossing those lines. He's got to feel comfortable with the guys on the sideline, going to put him in the right play and trust it. That built the trust there against the Patriots. That's awesome. I love that story.
It was an interesting night in so many ways. For Caleb Williams, on the other side, the former number one, it was a Charles Dickens game, right? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. You saw some. Math was never my strong point, but am I putting two and two together here? You got the Chiefs who desperately seem to need something. You got the Dolphins who look ready to splinter, and he's obviously not happy. This feels too obvious not to happen.
It makes some sense. And you also, like the Chiefs always trade for a veteran wide receiver at the trade deadline, so it would make a lot of sense. Look, it's too early, I think, for the Dolphins to give up on their season and give up on their program. So I don't think it happens.
I saw it. I'm not sure you say that.
I don't think it happens soon, but I do think it could get to a point where that happens. There's no doubt. But, the Chiefs, like talking to people there after the game, like they had a Xavier Worthy-centric game plan, and he got hurt on the third play. So you see these deep shots to Tyquan Thornton. He's got that timed up with Xavier Worthy from weeks and weeks and weeks of practice, whereas Tyquan Thornton's been catching the ball from, Gardner Minshew. So they weren't quite on. the week and a half to fix it, it might look better.
On the other side of it, you called the game.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dolphins thing, was it as bad as it looked on TV?
It was. And specifically when you're talking about Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa, the offense got nothing going. They had 0 points going into the fourth quarter, 3 turnovers in that game. So, yes, when you see a frustrated Tyreek Hill on the sideline, it was with reason. They were really bad offensively in that game.
Yeah, they were horrible. And Tyreek is frustrated, but if you watch him, Tyreek sometimes didn't know where to go. The offensive line's dropping protections. The running backs don't do what they're supposed to do. It was a colossal failure at all kinds of levels. Let me say this about the Tyreek Hill thing. A lot of stuff has been said from Tyreek about the Chiefs.
Right.
To bring that dude back in your locker room, we may need some receivers. I'm not sure like what he said about Tua and Mahomes, what he said. When he left, he kind of left scorched earth, right?
Yeah.
So, when you do that, maybe they're all adult enough to bring it back. It would be difficult in the locker room.
Everybody talk greasy at the breakup, and then you go off and you go live your life. You're like, man, thing wasn't that bad. Baby, I'm sorry. I can cook dinner sometimes too. You're right. My bad. I was being selfish. I feel like Tyreek is at that point.
I love you.
We roll on next. So a historic night. Here's JJ and the coach at the mic.
What do you think he will remember most about this night?
Getting the win. That's what I remember most. Just being here in the hometown, it's a dream come true. And, to all the kids out there, it's possible. And, I just love my guys and can't wait to go to war next week.
I told him at halftime, you are going to bring us back to win this game. And the look in his eye was fantastic. And the best thing is just the belief I felt from the team.
Okay, we got a lot of time to talk about this. Put your feet up. We got 2 quarterbacks to analyze because that's the story of last night. And Graziano, what was your first thought this morning?
I thought that even though he was hurt and didn't play last year, the year that J.J. McCarthy spent in Minnesota last year was more beneficial to his development than the year Caleb Williams spent in Chicago last year was to his. And just because, 2 different head coaches, multiple offensive coordinators, just kind of, didn't really get his feet under him in the league, even though he was playing. Whereas J.J. McCarthy, the coaching infrastructure there in Minnesota is so strong. The belief from the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, in him is so strong. And apparently, as Kevin mentioned, the team feels the same way. So this is a quarterback who had never played in the NFL before last night, but seemed like he was absolutely ready not only to play, but to continue Minnesota's success from last year. Remember, there's a lot of pressure on this young man. They won 14 games last year, so if he didn't look like he was up to it, it would have gone sour pretty quickly.
Troy Aikman started the night by saying he thinks there's more pressure on McCarthy this year than any other quarterback in the league. And so how do you think his teammates walked out of that stadium last night?
Oh, you walk in that locker room coming off that victory and you say to each other, hey, Nick, man, we got to do it.
We got our guy. We got our guy.
We're not worried about that. Yeah. When you go through that level of adversity that he went through in the first half of that ball game, when you throw a pick 6 in the third quarter and it's good night, turn the lights out, and you're able to respond. This throw in the fourth quarter to Justin Jefferson while he's getting hit in the mouth, I think they found out something about their quarterback, that he has the moxie to get us to where we want to go.
They're going to have a great week of practice. I remember getting traded down to Atlanta, and we had Matt Ryan, a quarterback.
What's up, Vikings Nation? Victor here, and we've got a huge rumor to break down today. We're talking about none other than Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, and the possibility of him coming to Minnesota to line up next to Justin Jefferson. Let that sink in for a second. So here's what's going on. A Dolphins insider, Armando Salguero, dropped the details of what Miami's asking price for Hill could look like if they decide to move on. And honestly, it's way more realistic than I expected. According to Salguero, the asking price could be something like a late 3rd round pick, maybe a 4th or even a 5th. That's right, we're not talking about giving up 2 firsts. We're talking mid-round capital for one of the most explosive receivers of all time. Now, here's the catch. Tyreek's contract is massive. He's got a $27.6 million cap hit in 2025, and it explodes to $51.8 million in 2026. That's a number no team wants to touch, which is why Miami might be ready to cash out now before things get messy. And for a team like the Vikings, this could actually work. We'd be buying 2 years of Tyreek Hill to create one of the scariest receiver duos the NFL has ever seen. Jefferson and Hill on the same field. Why it makes sense for the Vikings, think about it. Vikings Nation. Jordan Addison is hurt. Jalen Naylor can't stay healthy. KJ Osborne left in free agency. Right now, it's Justin Jefferson carrying the load. Imagine dropping Tyreek Hill Listen to this offense. J.J. McCarthy in his rookie year would have the ultimate safety blanket. No matter what defense throws at him, he'd have Jefferson on one side and Hill on the other. Two receivers who can completely take over a game. And remember, Tyreek is still elite. Last season with Miami, he put up 1,199 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns, leading the league in yards per route run. He hasn't slowed down one bit. The risk versus reward. Now, yeah, there's risk. That contract is heavy, and he's turning 31 next year. But if the Vikings could get him for something like a third rounder, that's a move you absolutely have to consider. We're in a division where the Lions are stacked, the Packers look dangerous with Jordan Love, and the Bears just drafted Caleb Williams. If Kwesi and O'Connell want to keep us in that conversation, pairing Hill with Jefferson is how you do it. Look, I'll be real with you guys. I would love this, even if it's just for 2 years. Think about the fireworks in US Bank Stadium. Think about the pressure it would take off McCarthy. And think about the defensive coordinators in the NFC North losing sleep trying to figure out how to cover both Jefferson and Hill. For me, if the price is really just a late third or fourth round pick, pull the trigger. This is a win-now move, and with Justin Jefferson in his prime, that's exactly what the Vikings should be doing. But now I gotta throw it to you guys. Would you give up a third-round pick to get Tyreek Hill in purple and gold? Or do you think it's too risky with that huge contract hanging over his head? Drop your takes in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Report Vikings. Because if this trade even comes close to happening, you know I'll be right here breaking it all down with you. Skol Vikings!